Today our guest speaker is Mr. John Brickey from the city of Longview. You probably have met him, seen him before. He's the Director of Community Development, and he's coming here today to talk to us about a lot of the neat things that's been going on with the city of Longview. Since our club and the city of Longview share the same birthday, we kind of work very much hand in hand over the years, and that relationship has always been strong. So at this point in time, I'd like to introduce to you John Brickey from the city of Longview. John?
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to the Lions Club. As I look around me here, I'm perceiving this is a pretty tough crowd.
What gave you the first clue?
Doug. But I'm really pleased to see that I have a good friend and previous coworker that's in the audience, so I feel a little bit safer. And so, Terry, you take care of the last half of the room there, and I'll handle the front half. I do want to say that I, as a citizen of this community, I'm very appreciative of the Lions and what you do in our community, and have been doing for as long a time as the city has been here. So thank you all for your efforts in that. I'd like to share with you a few things that are happening in the city and things of interest to you. I've been told that I need to keep it kind of brief, and I was told that I could speak up to about 5 minutes to 1, but the clock here is fast. And when I look around, there's no clock. Means I can speak as long as I want, right?
I'll remind you.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yeah. So the things that are happening in the city right now is something that most people are not aware of, but yet it has a huge impact on our city, is that we are going through a comprehensive plan update process. There are other entities in our region that are going through a similar process. We are a little more expeditious in completing ours. And it's been 10 years since we updated it. And so it's time for us to look at it again. It's not going to be a complete overhaul of our comp plan, but rather we will just be updating some of the information that's in it and getting a feel from the community if our vision for the future 20 years of Longview is still good. Really quickly, some of the things that we'll be looking at is that we have some focus areas that we're going to focus on as part of this update. One is the Barlow Point area out to the east or to the west of the Millennium Bulk site, and the Port of Longview has purchased property out there, and we have some other properties that are not currently owned by industrial entities, but they're out there as well. And the question about that particular property is that some of it was in our past comprehensive plan, some of it was designated on the future land use map as commercial residential mixed use. And much of all of it actually is zoned for heavy industrial at this point in time. The reason for that in the past was that there was a interest and actually an effort on some developers' part to develop part of Barlow Point for some residential commercial use. However, in the subsequent downturn in the economy, and they're checking into developability of it, lack of sewer and water, wetlands issues, they decided that it wasn't a feasible project, and so they walked away from it after spending some money toward seeing whether it would work. Well, in the meantime, Port of Longview has purchased some of that property, and it is still designated in our future land use map as residential commercial mixed use while it is zoned for heavy industrial. They could develop it today if they wanted to for industrial purposes, but by state law we have to have a consistency between our comp plan and the zoning code. And so they actually brought it forward to the Planning Commission, and then ultimately it went to Council, but both Planning Commission and Council decided to allow for our comprehensive plan update process to deal with that particular issue, and so hopefully that will be dealt with within the next several months. Another area that we're focusing on is the south side of Ocean Beach at 36th Avenue. It is an area that was designated 10 years ago as regional commercial because there was some interest in our community to make sure that we had plenty of place for large box, big box type development to occur. Well, as again with the economy turning down, we haven't had any activity there. It's residential primarily now, but the issue is that if they allow their residential use to cease activity as a residence for a year, they cannot reoccupy or rebuild as a residence. And so there are some property owners out there that are concerned about it. So we're going to give the community and those property owners an opportunity to take a look at that and see if we need to revisit that and change it to some other zoning designation for the future. The third area focus area that we're going to look at is the 1st and 3rd Avenue corridor. Right now, that area to the north on 1st Avenue is Riverfront District, and on the area to the south of Hudson is light industrial. And there has been some interest in the past to allow more commercial activity to take place there. While personally I don't know that that's a good idea, because I think we want to focus our commercial efforts in commercial areas like the downtown and some of the other general commercial districts that we have around town. And the more we spread those out, the less synergy we get with commercial businesses, retail type businesses being next to each other. And so, but that will be an interesting discussion, because there are a lot of different thoughts about the 1st Avenue, 3rd Avenue corridor. And the final one that we're going to be looking at of primary interest would be the West Longview lagoons. Anybody got any good ideas on what we could do with the lagoons? Somebody said something about a water park. Swimming hole, yeah. But that's something our council is going to be wrestling with on how to redevelop that, or what it should be used for in the future. Yeah, yeah. Houseboats. Yeah. So similar to that, but a different subject. The City of Longview is currently in negotiations with the county and with Cowlitz 2 Fire and Rescue about annexing a fairly large chunk of land that is currently completely encompassed by the City of Longview. It is connected to the county only by a 50-foot wide strip, which is in the middle of a slough. And that is the West Longview Ocean Beach corridor between 40th and 52nd. And so we are trying to come up with an annexation agreement that is satisfactory to Cowlitz 2 Fire and Rescue. Cowlitz County is more than happy for us to annex that. And after driving through all of the neighborhoods, I think I know why. But it's something that I think is be good for the community, because we currently have very irregular boundaries out there, and it's at times difficult for people to even know whether they're in the city or not. It's difficult for first responders, fire and police, to absolutely know where we're at without using GPS or a map or something of that nature. And so we'd like to relieve that and annex that into the city. One thing I will mention is that it's not a huge benefit to the city to annex those properties in, because they're primarily residential, and mostly, or the majority of them are rental properties. And when you look at the numbers associated with residential, particularly rental, and versus commercial, for instance, the residential properties will contribute about 65% of what it costs for the city to service them. And commercial properties will contribute somewhere around 125% of what it costs for the city to service them. And so it's not a moneymaker for the city to annex those properties, but looking at the long term of our community, it is in the best interest of the community and the best interest of those individuals out there. One of the incentives for them to annex into the city is that they currently pay 165% on utilities, water and sewer. So coming into the city would reduce their water and sewer bill considerably. The next item that I wanted to share with you is that many of you may be aware that we recently, the first of the year, hired an economic development coordinator for the city. And I want to make it clear that we are not in competition with the Cowlitz Economic Development Council. This is intended to be supplementary to what they do. They have a regional view and a regional direction toward bringing economic development to our community. We have internally for years shared those economic duties between certain department heads and the city manager, and it was Bob Gregory's vision that we get a person that's focused on that within the city, and so the council saw fit to authorize that, and so we've hired Joe Phillips to be our economic development coordinator, and he's hit the ground running. He's doing very well, has a lot of experience in that And I hope that we'll all see some really good things here in the next year to 2 years. Next item I'd like to share with you is that we're all familiar with the fact that our state has legalized recreational marijuana. And this year there are some changing legislation. There is some changing legislation or legislation that will change what that looks like, and that they're trying to incorporate the medical marijuana and recreational marijuana into a single set of rules. And so that will affect our community. As you may know, we currently have 3 retail outlets within our city. And we have a number of grow operations throughout the city as well. They are limited to where they can go by buffers and zoning districts. But with the new legislation, they're going to increase the number of retail outlets to 6 possible in the city of Longview. And our council is going to be looking at how we regulate, if we do regulate any further, that particular industry within our community. The last item that I have for you, and how am I doing on time here? I think I'm doing okay, huh?
Oh, you've got 5 more minutes.
Okay, good. Last item I wanted to share with you is that many of you may have noticed the downtown streetscape. And I think personally it looks very good. I think that it has turned out well, and hopefully will be its own bit of economic development for our community to encourage businesses to invest in themselves. And we are through phases 1 and 2 of that project. It started at Washington Way, and the first phase finished at Broadway. The second phase was from Broadway to Hudson. And the third phase, which unfortunately will be another year before we start that one, it'll be started in 2017, that will go from Hudson to Hemlock. Funding for that project was pieced together. I mean, there's not a large sum of money that the city has that we can just pull out of and do streetscape. So it involves several different funding sources, some from stormwater, some from rural county economic development funds, some from our own street funds, street improvement funds, and various other funds. In fact, Community Development Block Grant was also one of those that contributed to that particular effort. But I think the result is good, and it will be fairly long-lasting for our downtown. We are currently considering doing a lighting up of the downtown by putting lights on the trees downtown. That is something that is important to our council, and I know it's important to the Longview Downtown Partnership, the group that is organized in the downtown. And so we're going to be working on that in the next couple of months, and hopefully have some lights on the trees here shortly. So with that, are there any questions that anybody has? Yes.
John, I know you're not the traffic director, but the lights at Washington Way and Nichols Boulevard and also down at 30th and Washington Way are absolutely nonsensical. What can be done?
Yeah. Very complex issue. When you look at traffic lights, it's not as simple as I would think it would be. When I've talked with our traffic engineer about some of those locations, the difficulty in getting those to work and work well for everybody is virtually impossible. So they try to get it to work the best for safety and for the most who need to use that intersection. And so those that are not coming the direction that it is designed to help with safety and keeping traffic moving, we suffer the consequences. So I don't know that I have a good answer for you on that, unless you want to propose and pay for a large roundabout.
Most of us are retired, we have time to get through town now.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Is there any hope for paving 15?
Yeah. Well, interesting you should bring that up. Over the years, the city has lost a lot of revenue. As our cars become more economical and the state takes more of the gas tax for themselves and leaves less for us, we end up with less and less to work with to maintain the infrastructure that we have now. And so it's going to take another source of funding. And really the only source of funding that seems to be viable at this time is for those who drive cars in the city of Longview to pay some additional funds for their license tabs to help pay for improving or maintaining the pavement that we have. And so you may see something like that in the coming year, where our council will authorize imposition of a tab fee for maintenance of streets.
What are we short per year?
How much are we short?
2 million?
It's about 2 million a year that we're short right now. But we won't make that up. We won't come anywhere close to that with the car tabs though.
How much is total city budget now?
53 million.
53 million.
And over 50% of that's taken up by fire and police.
Oh,
Less than 2% by community development.
yeah. So what's the exponential number on that? 1.843?
There you go. Yes, sir.
As a concerned citizen, at the Barlow Point in wetlands, I just want to be on notice that George the Turtle is buried out there. And should have some consideration before you develop it.
Did you put an arrowhead with him? No. You're in trouble.
We'll keep our eyes open.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Curious about sign permit and how much square feet are available for businesses. Is it really okay to use 30 by 40 feet on the side of your business as your sign?
Depends on which zoning district you're in. Our downtown commerce district has a limited amount of signage that can be applied to a building or on an actual sign. But other zoning districts like the office commercial or general commercial have.
Over here. So I want to thank you. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you this mug for your favorite beverage. And there's an application in there for membership if you would like to come back and join us on full time.